Greetings to you. Welcome to your tutorial on conditional sentences in the Latin language. Accompanying this video on my channel, you'll find a Latin language version of the song If by the group Bread, written by David Gates. It's a lovely song, and it just happens to contain 4 types of conditional sentences that will be studied in this tutorial. I use other examples as well to instruct you on the different ways you construct conditional sentences for the Latin language. And so, when you're done learning here, please go enjoy the song. Conditional sentences in the Latin language. Now, a conditional sentence is constructed of 2 parts. Here's an example. If Caesar attacks, he is clever. The 2 halves of the sentence are called the protasis, which is the condition. This is the thing which, if something is true, something else is then considered to be true. So, if Caesar attacks, the apodosis then, the conclusion would be, he is clever. The word then in a conditional sentence is optional. We could say if Caesar attacks, he is clever, or if Caesar attacks, then he is clever. In Latin, you will not ordinarily see anything for the word then. Feel free to add it when you translate the sentence. Okay, conditional sentences in Latin are of 2 types. One are what we call indicative mood conditions. The other is subjunctive mood conditions. Generally speaking, indicative conditionals are things that might be true. Subjunctive conditions are things that are not true. Here's our first example of an indicative mood conditional sentence. It is called the simple fact present. Si Caesar oppugnat, calidus est. If Caesar attacks, he is clever. Each half of this conditional sentence uses present tense indicative verbs. The idea here is, if Caesar attacks, and he very well may attack, he is clever. Here's an example from the song If by Bread. Si pictura mille verborum pingit, cur non possum te pingere. If a picture paints 1,000 words, then why can't I paint you? And so, true to form, for the simple fact present, I am using 2 present tense indicative verbs for each half of this conditional sentence. Here's another indicative mood condition. It's the simple fact past. Si Caesar oppugnavit, calidus fuit. If Caesar attacked, he was clever. Now the idea here is Caesar may have attacked, but if he attacked, it happened in the past. Now, if he attacked, he was clever. We don't know that he attacked, but he may have attacked. Both halves of this type of conditional sentence use perfect tense indicative verbs, oppugnavit and fuit. Here's an example of a simple fact past from the song If. Si facies millenavium deduxit, quo ire debio. If a face could launch 1,000 ships, then where am I to go? Now this is referring to Helen of Troy. It's being reported as a true fact from the past. Therefore, it is a simple fact past. Deduxit is perfect tense indicative. Now, this is also an example of what we call a mixed conditional. Even though it is a simple fact past in the protasis, there is a present tense verb in the apodosis. Yet another type of indicative conditional is called the simple fact future, also called the future more vivid. Si Caesar oppugnabit, calidus erit. If Caesar attacks, he will be clever. Now you're going to use future tense indicative verbs in both halves of this conditional. And the idea here is Caesar has not yet attacked. He may attack, but we don't know. And if he attacks, or will attack, he will be clever. The other type of conditional sentence in Latin uses the subjunctive mood. Here's one example. This is called the contrary to fact present. Si Caesar oppugnaret, calidus esset. If Caesar were attacking, he would be clever. Now, contrary to fact means this is not true. Caesar, in this example, is not currently attacking. If he were attacking, he would be clever. But he's not. This is contrary to fact. In this type of a conditional, you have imperfect tense subjunctive verbs for both halves of the sentence. Here's an example of a contrary to fact present sentence in the song If. Si vir simul in duobus locis esse posset tecum essem. If a man could be two places at one time, I'd be with you. A man can't be two places at one time. This is contrary to fact. And so we have imperfect tense subjunctive verbs on both halves of the sentence. Yet another conditional sentence using subjunctive is the contrary to fact past. Si Caesar oppugnavisset, calidus fuisset. If Caesar had attacked, he would have been clever. The idea here is Caesar did not attack. This is contrary to fact. In the past, he did not attack. If he had attacked, but he did not, he would have been clever. This conditional sentence uses pluperfect tense subjunctive verbs for both halves. Finally, a conditional sentence using the subjunctive mood is the future less vivid. We also call this the should-would conditional. Si Caesar oppugnet, calidus sit. You see, should-would is going to appear in both halves. If Caesar should attack, he would be clever. This type of conditional uses the present tense subjunctive for both halves. There is an example of it in the song If. Si terra desinatre volvi, volvans lentius mori. If the world should stop revolving, spinning slowly down to die, tecum finem agam, I'd spend the end with you. And in order to render this, I use present tense subjunctive verbs for both the protasis and apodosis. Finally, I mentioned earlier there is such a thing as a mixed conditional. There are conditionals that don't use the word si, meaning if, and also there are other things that can occur inside the conditional. In this famous example from Julius Caesar, Book 4, we hear Desilite commilitones, nisi vultis aquilam hostibus prodere. Jump, fellow soldiers, unless you want to surrender the eagle to the enemies. We have nisi, meaning unless, instead of the word si. And we also have here not a finite verb, but an imperative. Jump, fellow soldiers, unless you want to surrender the eagle to the enemies.